chosen one, why are you still broke at 70? Why, after a lifetime of tithing, praying, believing, why is your bank account still screaming at you every time you open it? And why, tell me, why does it feel like God answers everyone's prayers but yours? Stop, right there. Don't scroll past this. Don't dismiss what I'm about to tell you as just another sermon. Because what's happening in this exact moment right now, as your eyes meet these words, is not coincidence, it's divine interception. Chosen one, today is not another day on the calendar. This is the richest day of your life. I don't say that lightly. I say it with the weight of heaven's authority, with the certainty of a decree that was written before you took your first breath. This moment you're living in right now, it's vibrating with supernatural frequency. The very air in your room is thick with destiny. You feel it, don't you? That strange heaviness in your chest. That electricity running through your spirit. That's not anxiety. That's activation. This is not a message you stumbled upon while killing time. This is a summons. Heaven interrupted your scroll, stopped your routine, and placed this word directly in your path, because what I'm about to release over your life will not wait another second. You've been carrying medical bills you can't pay, prescription bottles that cost more than your grocery budget. You've buried friends, buried dreams, buried hope. You lie awake at 3 a.m. doing mental math that never adds up, wondering if Social Security will stretch one more month, wondering if you'll become a burden to your children, wondering if God forgot your address. But listen to me carefully. Your financial shift is not in the future tense. It is happening right now. Before we go deeper, I need to pause and honor something sacred. Thank you truly, from my heart, to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're sowing seeds into a harvest that will feed hungry souls across this nation. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. Now, I need you to do something. Right now, in the comments, type 777, not as superstition, as agreement. Agreement that this word is yours. Agreement that what I'm about to declare over your finances, over your future, over your remaining years on this earth is not theory, it's prophecy. Because the vaults of heaven just opened, and your name is on the withdrawal slip. Don't ignore this moment, chosen one. Everything is about to change. How many nights have you lain awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, doing math that never adds up? How many times have you stood in the pharmacy, holding a prescription in one hand and your debit card in the other, knowing you have to choose between your heart medication and groceries for the week? How many times have you whispered to God in the dark, "Did you forget me?" I know that weight. I see it in your eyes even through this screen. That crushing pressure in your chest that makes it hard to breathe some mornings. That exhaustion that has nothing to do with your age and everything to do with carrying burdens you were never meant to carry alone. You've been faithful for 70, 80, maybe 90 years. You tithed when you couldn't afford to tithe. You prayed when prayer felt like shouting into an empty sky. You believed when everyone around you said your faith was foolish. And yet here you are, Social Security barely covering rent, medical bills stacking up like accusers, watching your children struggle and knowing you can't help them the way you want to. The enemy has whispered the same lie to you for decades. If God really loved you, you wouldn't be in this mess. If you were really chosen, you'd be blessed by now. But that's not how heaven works, beloved. That's not how divine surgery operates. You see, what you've been calling abandonment was actually anesthesia. What you've been calling delay was actually development. What you've been calling suffering was actually preparation for a blessing so massive that God had to strengthen your spirit first, or the weight of his favor would have crushed you. Think about the children of Israel at the Red Sea. Pharaoh's army behind them, mountains on both sides, water in front of them, no escape, no plan B, just trapped. And I can imagine what they must have whispered to each other in those final moments before Moses lifted his staff. God led us out here to die. This is it. We're finished. But that wasn't a dead end. That was a setup for the greatest miracle they would ever witness. Your dead end is God's stage. Your impossibility is His opportunity. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The reason your breakthrough has taken so long is because what's coming is too big for who you used to be. God couldn't release this wealth into the hands of someone still operating in poverty mentality. He couldn't pour this blessing into a vessel still cracked by bitterness and doubt. So He's been doing surgery on your soul while you thought He was ignoring your prayers. Job understood this. The Bible says he was the most righteous man on earth, yet he lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health, all stripped away. And for months, Job sat in ashes, scraping his skin with broken pottery, wondering why God had abandoned him. His own wife told him, "Curse God and die." His friends accused him of hidden sin. Everyone looked at his suffering and said, "God must be punishing you." But they were all wrong. Job 42:12 declares, "The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part, not a little more, not just enough to get by, double." God gave him twice as much as he had before. But here's what most preachers won't tell you. Job couldn't have handled that doubled blessing with his old mindset. He had to be refined first. He had to learn that his security wasn't in his possessions, but in his God. You've been in your own job season, haven't you? Stripped down, broken open, tested in ways that don't make sense. People have looked at your life and made assumptions. Maybe even you looked at yourself in the mirror and wondered if God was punishing you for something. But that heaviness you've been feeling, that crushing weight that makes you want to give up some days, that's not punishment, beloved. That's labor. That's the groaning of creation itself, preparing to birth your miracle. Romans 8:22 says, "The whole creation has been groaning, as in the pains of childbirth, right up to the present time." Labor hurts. Labor is messy. Labor makes you want to quit. But labor means something is about to be born. And the harder the labor, the greater the life that's coming. Why have you been waiting so long? Why has every door slammed shut? Why delay after delay after delay? Because God was building something in you that the blessing requires. He was developing character that could steward wealth. He was forging faith that doesn't depend on circumstances. He was creating a testimony so powerful that when your shift comes, no one will be able to deny that only God could have done this. That storm you've been feeling building, that tension in the atmosphere around your life, that's not destruction approaching. That's the final rumbling before breakthrough. That's the sky darkening before the rain. That's the silence before the walls of Jericho fall. And here's what you need to understand right now. The weight you're feeling is actually pressure. Pressure that's about to release. Like a dam that's been holding back an ocean, and the cracks are starting to show. When this breaks, when heaven's floodgates finally open over your finances, it won't be a trickle. It won't be just enough to pay one bill. It will be a tsunami of provision that will shock you, that will leave you speechless, that will make you fall to your knees and weep, because you'll finally understand all those years of waiting were protecting you from a blessing you weren't ready to receive. If you've been feeling that heaviness, if you recognize your story in these words, if something in your spirit is confirming that this message is for you, don't stay silent. Type "That's me" in the comments right now. Let heaven take notice. Let this community surround you, because what I'm about to reveal next will explain exactly why your delay is about to become your greatest testimony. The weight you're carrying is about to transform into the wealth you've been praying for, and you need to be ready for what happens when heaven finally says, "Now." You've been waiting so long you stopped believing it would ever happen, didn't you? You stopped saying it out loud. You stopped telling your children about the dreams God whispered to you 40 years ago, because the disappointment in their eyes hurt worse than your own. You learned to smile through the silence, to nod when people said God's timing is perfect, while something inside you screamed, Then why does it feel like he forgot me? Listen to me, chosen one. What if I told you that every single delay in your life, every door that slammed shut, every opportunity that evaporated, every promise that seemed to die wasn't rejection? What if it was redirection? What if heaven wasn't saying no, but not yet? Because what I'm preparing for you is so massive that you needed decades of refinement to handle it. The theater of heaven has been dark for you. The curtain stayed closed while others took their bows. You sat in the audience of your own life, watching everyone else get called to the stage. Your neighbor retired with a pension that could feed a village. Your sister's husband left her a life insurance policy that set her free. Your friend from church got that inheritance, that settlement, that miracle. And you got medical bills. You got another rejection letter. You got silence. But something is shifting right now. Can you feel it? The atmosphere in the spiritual realm is crackling with electricity. The curtain that's been closed over your financial destiny is beginning to move. And when it rises, when it fully opens, the spotlight won't just be on you. It will be you. You will be the living testimony that God doesn't forget his promises. He perfects them. Think about Joseph. Genesis 41 tells us he spent years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Years. Not months, not a season. Years of rotting in an Egyptian dungeon, wondering if the dreams God gave him as a teenager were just fantasy. He went to sleep a prisoner and woke up prime minister. One day, one conversation with Pharaoh, and suddenly, the man everyone forgot became the man everyone needed. The delay wasn't punishment. It was positioning. Joseph needed those prison years to develop the character that could handle ruling an empire. If Pharaoh had promoted him earlier, power would have corrupted him. Wealth would have destroyed him. But after years of being forgotten, after learning to trust God in the dark, after developing integrity when no one was watching, then he was ready. Then the curtain rose. And Moses. Dear God, Moses, do you know how old he was when God called him from that burning bush? 80 years old. 80. The man spent 40 years thinking he was a prince, 40 years thinking he was a nobody. And then God said, now you're ready. Exodus 7:7 records it clearly. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. Why would God wait so long? Because late bloomers carry the greatest assignments. Because the wilderness years weren't wasted, they were training. Moses had to lose his Egyptian pride, his human strength, his self-reliance. He had to become so weak in himself that God's power could flow through him unhindered. And when he finally stepped into his calling at 80, he didn't just lead a family, he led a nation. Your age isn't disqualification. It's your diploma from the school of life. Then there's Sarah, 90 years old. 90. Her womb had been dead for decades. She'd stopped hoping, stopped dreaming, stopped believing that God's promise could still come true. But Genesis 21:6 says, Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. She didn't just have a baby, she birthed nations. She became the mother of multitudes. And it happened when everyone said it was impossible. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine strategy. So let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many years have you been apologizing for your gray hair? How many times have you introduced yourself with, I'm just a retired, or I'm only a senior citizen, as if those words were admissions of irrelevance? How long have you believed the lie that your best days are behind you, that your season of significance is over, that God's plan for your life expired when you turned 65? Your gray hair isn't weakness, it's a crown of wisdom. Proverbs 16:31 declares, gray hair is a crown of splendor, it is attained in the way of righteousness. Every wrinkle on your face is a testimony to a battle you survived. Every ache in your bones is evidence that you're still standing when lesser people fell. You're not fading. You're being refined into pure gold. And here's what hell doesn't want you to know. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that you missed your moment, that your time has passed, that it's too late for breakthrough. Why? Because he knows what's about to happen. He knows that when you step into your season of overflow, when the curtain finally rises on your financial destiny, you won't just be blessed, you'll be dangerous. You'll have resources to fund the kingdom. You'll have influence to shift atmospheres. You'll have testimony to destroy the lies he's been selling to an entire generation. The delay wasn't to hold you back. It was heaven rearranging the stage for your grand entrance. Every closed door was removing obstacles. Every financial struggle was teaching you dependence on God, not systems. Every season of lack was purging your trust in human provision, so that when supernatural provision arrives, you'll know beyond doubt that it came from heaven's hand, not earth's economy. The curtain is rising. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not next year. The spiritual realm is in motion over your life at this very second. The angels assigned to your breakthrough are taking their positions. The resources earmarked for your name are being released. The people who will help you are being strategically positioned in your path. But you have to believe it. You have to receive it. You have to stop mourning the delays and start celebrating the divine timing. Type "I'm ready" if you believe your curtain is rising. Don't just read this. Participate in this prophetic moment. Your agreement activates the blessing. Your declaration shifts the atmosphere. Heaven is waiting for you to say yes to what's already been prepared. Because here's what I need you to understand as we move forward. The curtain rising isn't just about money showing up. It's about identity being restored. And what's about to be revealed about who you really are will shock you more than any check ever could. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many more years can you keep doing this math? How many more months can you stretch that social security check before it snaps? You're sitting there right now, aren't you, calculator in one hand, bills in the other, trying to figure out if you can afford both your heart medication and groceries this week? I know your story because I've heard it 1,000 times. Fixed income, rising costs. The pension you worked 40 years for gone, stolen by a bankruptcy you had no control over. Medicare that covers everything except what you actually need. And that gnawing, midnight terror that whispers, what if I outlive my money? What if I become a burden? What if my children have to choose between their future and my survival? That fear has a name. It's called financial captivity. And it's been wrapped around your throat for so long you've started to believe it's normal. You've started to think that poverty in your golden years is just the price of getting old in America. But I'm here to tell you that is a lie straight from the pit of hell. You see, the enemy has been running a con game on God's people for generations. He's convinced you that struggling is spiritual, that barely making it is somehow noble. That financial breakthrough is for other people, younger people, luckier people, people who didn't make the mistakes you made. But Proverbs 13:22 shatters that deception with one razor-sharp truth. The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the righteous. Did you catch that? Laid up. Not maybe. Not if you're good enough. Laid up. Present tense. Already stored. Already allocated. There is a vault in heaven with your name engraved on it, and it's been collecting interest on your faithfulness for 70, 80, 90 years. Every tithe you gave when you couldn't afford it, every offering you sowed in faith, every time you chose obedience over security, heaven recorded it. And now, right now, the divine accountant is processing a wire transfer from eternity's account directly into your earthly reality. I'm not talking about enough to get by. I'm not talking about a little extra padding in your checking account. I'm talking about massive checks that show up in your mailbox with no explanation. Unexpected deposits that appear in your bank account overnight. Phone calls from lawyers telling you about inheritances you didn't know existed. Sudden provision that defies every natural law of economics. You think I'm exaggerating. You think I'm hyping you up with false hope. Then explain to me how the widow of Zarephath's oil never ran out. Explain how 5 loaves fed 5,000 with 12 baskets left over. Explain how a nation of slaves walked out of Egypt, carrying the wealth of their oppressors. The same God who did that is the same God who's reading this decree over your finances right now. But here's what you need to understand, and this is critical. This wealth isn't coming so you can hoard it in comfort. This isn't about buying a bigger house or taking luxury cruises while the world burns. No, this wealth is a mantle. It's a mission. It's a divine assignment wrapped in dollar bills. God is releasing resources into your hands because He needs someone in this final hour who can be trusted with kingdom wealth. Someone who's been refined by fire. Someone who knows the difference between provision and pride. Someone who will use their abundance to build legacy, fund ministry, and establish their family for generations. You are that someone. You've been tested in poverty so you could be trusted in prosperity. You've been faithful with little so heaven can flood you with much. You've survived the wilderness so you could inherit the promised land. And let me be crystal clear about what's coming. This isn't survival. This is dynasty. Not just riches, legacy wealth. The kind of wealth that doesn't stop with you. The kind that rewrites your family tree. The kind that makes your great-grandchildren tell stories about the year everything changed because one person you finally said yes to heaven's economy. But this shift requires something from you. It requires you to stop speaking poverty over your life. It requires you to stop agreeing with lack. It requires you to open your mouth right now and make a declaration that will shake the foundations of hell. Say it with me. Say it out loud. Don't whisper it, declare it. I am stepping into kingdom wealth. Say it again. Louder this time. I am stepping into kingdom wealth. One more time, like you mean it. I am stepping into kingdom wealth. Do you feel that? That's not just words. That's spiritual warfare. Every time you declare that truth, you're dismantling decades of financial curses. You're breaking generational poverty. You're activating the promise that's been dormant in your bloodline. The vaults of heaven are unlocking right now. Can you hear it? That sound isn't your imagination. It's the tumblers clicking into place. It's the doors swinging wide. It's the divine wire transfer being processed from eternity's account straight into your hands. But here's the question that's going to determine everything. Will you receive it? Or will you let doubt, fear, and religious poverty mindsets rob you one more time? Because what's coming next is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about worthiness, timing, and who God chooses to bless. Are you ready to discover why you were specifically selected for this financial shift? Listen to me, chosen one. I need to tell you something that's going to shatter every lie you've believed about yourself for the last 30, 40, maybe 50 years. You are not a senior citizen on a fixed income. You are not someone the world has shelved, forgotten, or written off as irrelevant. You are not too old, too tired, or too late. Those labels, they're not from heaven. They're from hell. And today, we're ripping them off like the cheap price tags they are. Here's the truth that's been hidden from you. You are a kingdom general. You are a bloodline breaker. You are a legacy builder. And every single year you've lived, every wrinkle on your face, every scar on your heart, it's not evidence of decline, it's evidence of qualification. The world measures worth by productivity. Heaven measures worth by perseverance. And you, dear one, you've persevered through storms that would have drowned lesser souls. Think about Moses, 80 years old, when God called him from that burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in a nursing home. Social Security would have kicked in 40 years earlier. But God said, now you're ready. Now you've got the wisdom, the humility, the scars that qualify you to deliver an entire nation. And for the next 40 years, Moses didn't retire, he reigned. He split seas. He spoke face to face with the Almighty. He led millions into freedom. Or what about Anna the prophetess? 84 years old, widowed after just 7 years of marriage. She spent decades in the temple, praying, fasting, worshipping when everyone else had gone home to their families. People probably whispered, "Poor old Anna, all alone." But when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, It wasn't the high priest who recognized him. It wasn't the scholars. It was Anna. God trusted her with the revelation that would echo through eternity because she had been refined in the furnace of loneliness and faithfulness. And Caleb, 85 years old, when he stood before Joshua and declared, "Give me this mountain, not give me a rocking chair, not give me a quiet retirement." He wanted the mountain, the challenge, the battle. Because he understood something most people never learn. Your age isn't your limitation. It's your leverage. Your years aren't subtracting from your value. They're adding to your authority. But I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're sitting there saying, "But you don't understand my life. You don't know the rejection I've faced. Your own children stopped calling as much. Your church moved on without you. Your friends from work forgot your name 6 months after you retired. The world made you feel invisible." Let me tell you something that's going to heal a wound you didn't know you could name. That rejection you felt, it wasn't punishment. It was protection. God was hiding you, not abandoning you. The enemy wanted to destroy you before you understood the power you carried, so God camouflaged you in obscurity. He wrapped you in seasons of silence, not because he forgot about you, but because he was preparing you for an assignment so massive that if it had come any earlier, it would have crushed you under its weight. David spent years running through caves, hiding from King Saul, wondering if God's promise of kingship was just a cruel joke. But those caves, they weren't punishment. They were training ground. Every night alone taught him to depend on God's voice above human approval. Every betrayal refined his character. And when he finally stepped into the throne, he didn't just rule, he transformed a nation. The rejection you endured was God's way of stripping away your need for human validation so that when he elevates you now, you won't be moved by the applause or destroyed by the criticism. You'll walk in holy confidence because you've learned to hear one voice above all others. You are not a victim of your story. You are the victor who rewrites it. But here's where it gets powerful. Here's where heaven invades earth. You think you're waiting for your purpose to show up. You think one day, someday, maybe before you die, God will finally use you in a significant way. Wrong. You are not waiting for your purpose. You are walking in it right now. This very moment. Your presence shifts atmospheres. When you walk into your grandchild's house, peace follows you because you carry the weight of decades of prayer. When you speak wisdom to a struggling neighbor, hell trembles because your words come from a deep well of experience. When you intercede at 3 a.m. for a nation that's lost its way, angels stand at attention because your prayers carry the authority of someone who has been tested and proven faithful. Your very existence is spiritual warfare. Your refusal to give up, to grow bitter, to stop believing that's not just survival, that's reigning. You are reigning right now in the invisible realm, and what's about to happen is that your reign is going to become visible. The crown you've been wearing in secret is about to be revealed in public. And it's not a crown of gold. It's a crown forged in fire, polished in tears, refined in silence. It's the kind of crown that can only be worn by someone who has walked through hell and came out singing hymns. You are not waiting for activation, chosen one. You are activated. The question is, will you step into what heaven has already declared over you? If you feel this fire rising in your chest right now, if something ancient and eternal is stirring in your spirit, don't ignore it. Write in the comments, "I'm activated." Declare it. Seal it. Because your agreement with heaven is what releases the fullness of what God has prepared. But let me ask you something that's going to determine everything that happens next in your life. Now that you know you're not who the world said you were, now that you understand your age is your weapon, not your weakness, what are you going to do with this revelation? You want to know what's about to happen to you? Let me paint you a picture that's going to wreck every limitation you've been living under. This overflow, this divine tsunami that's crashing into your life right now, it's not just about money. Money is the smallest part of what heaven is releasing. I'm talking about health that defies your medical charts, I'm talking about joy that floods your chest when you wake up at 5 a.m. instead of dread. I'm talking about peace so thick in your spirit that when your daughter calls with another crisis, you don't spiral, you stabilize her instead. Listen to what Malachi 3:10 says. I will open the windows of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. Not trickle, pour, not enough, overflow. Heaven doesn't do minimums. When God moves, He floods. But here's where it gets supernatural. Your overflow doesn't just fill your cup, it spills onto everyone around you. Your blessing becomes contagious, viral, magnetic. People will walk into your presence and feel something shift without you saying a word. You know why? Because favor isn't just something you receive, favor is something you become. Right now, some of you are carrying a weight that's crushing your soul. Your grandchildren barely call. When they do, the conversations are short, distracted, obligatory. You feel like a relic in your own family. An inconvenience. A burden they're managing. Not a treasure they're honoring. Your body? It's betraying you. Knees that won't cooperate. Pills that cost more than groceries. Doctors who look at you like a problem to be managed, not a person to be healed. And the loneliness, God, the loneliness, it sits in your chest like a stone. You go days without meaningful conversation. You scroll through pictures of friends who've passed on. You wonder if anyone would even notice if you were gone tomorrow. That's your reality right now. But watch what happens when overflow hits. Proverbs 10:22 declares, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, without painful toil for it." Without painful toil, that means the striving stops, the anxiety ends, the desperation dies. And what replaces it is supernatural flow. Your grandchildren, they're going to start calling out of nowhere, not because you begged, not because you guilted them, because your presence carries something they can't explain but desperately need. They'll want to be near you. They'll seek your wisdom. They'll feel peace in your living room that they can't find anywhere else in this chaotic world. Your health? Isaiah 53:5 says, "By His wounds we are healed." Not were healed in the past. Are healed. Present tense. Active. Right now. That arthritis that's been screaming at you for 15 years, heaven is touching it. That blood pressure medication you've been on since 1987, watch what God does. That depression that visits you every winter like clockwork, this is the last season it has permission to torment you. I'm not talking about positive thinking. I'm talking about prophetic turnaround. A complete reversal of everything that's been working against you. Because here's what happens when you step into overflow. You become a walking miracle. Your very presence shifts atmospheres. You'll walk into that church you've attended for 40 years, and suddenly people will gravitate toward you who never gave you the time of day. You'll sit in that doctor's waiting room, and strangers will start pouring out their hearts to you. You'll go to the grocery store, the same grocery store you've shopped at every Tuesday for 2 decades, and the cashier will stop mid-transaction and say, "There's something different about you." That's magnetic favor. It's not something you manufacture, it's something you carry. And it's so powerful that people feel it before you open your mouth. But let me tell you why this is happening now. Why not 10 years ago? Why not when you were younger, stronger, more capable? Because God needed you broken first. He needed you empty. He needed you desperate. Because only empty vessels can be filled without contamination. Only broken people know how to carry glory without pride. Only the desperate know how to steward blessing without taking credit for it. Job 42:10 records something staggering. After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Twice as much, not barely enough. Not just restoration, double portion. You know what that means for you? Every dollar the enemy stole, you're getting back double. Every relationship that broke your heart, God is sending double the love. Every year you felt invisible, heaven is releasing double the recognition. This is not incremental improvement. This is exponential explosion. And here's the part that's going to make you weep. Your pain wasn't pointless. Every tear you cried became seed. Every night you couldn't sleep became intercession. Every moment you felt forgotten became preparation for this. The moment when your overflow doesn't just bless you, it becomes a river that heals your entire bloodline. Your children who've been struggling, they're about to feel the shift. Your grandchildren who've been lost, they're about to find their way. Your great-grandchildren who aren't even born yet, they're going to inherit a spiritual legacy so powerful that the enemy will tremble at your family name. Because you, chosen one, you are prophecy fulfilled. You are walking proof that heaven's decree was never a dream. It is alive. It is breathing. It is manifesting in flesh and blood right now. Every prophet who spoke over your life, some you heard, some you never met, they were seeing this moment. Every ancestor who prayed for breakthrough in your bloodline, they were interceding for you. Every promise that seemed delayed, denied, dead, it was just waiting for this exact second when heaven said, "Now, release it all now." Romans 8:28 wasn't lying when it said, "All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose." All things. Not some. Not the easy things, all of it, the betrayals, the bankruptcies, the breakdowns, it was all working toward this overflow. You are not a victim of your story. You are the victor who rewrote it. And everyone who wrote you off, everyone who counted you out, everyone who said your best days were behind you, they're about to watch in stunned silence as God vindicates you publicly for what you endured privately. So right now, this very second, I need you to do something. In the comments, shout it. This is my turning day. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. This is the day the overflow begins. This is the day favor becomes contagious. This is the day you stop surviving and start thriving. Because your shift isn't coming, chosen one. Your shift is here. And what comes next will prove that every promise was real. You thought the blessing would feel lighter, didn't you? You imagined that when God finally moved in your finances, when heaven finally opened its vaults, you'd feel relief. Freedom, like a bird released from a cage, soaring effortlessly into open sky. But instead, there's this strange heaviness settling on your shoulders, this weight you can't quite name. And in the quiet moments late at night when the house is still and your mind won't rest, you wonder if something went wrong. You wonder if you're supposed to feel this. Burdened. Let me tell you what's really happening. That weight, that's not burden, that's glory. Your crown isn't jewelry, chosen one. It's a mantle. And mantles aren't decorative, they're functional. They're forged in the furnace of your tears, hammered on the anvil of your trials, and sealed in heaven's fire. What you're feeling right now is the weight of divine assignment settling into place. Because blessing and responsibility are twins. They arrive together, always. Listen to what happened to Moses on Mount Sinai. Exodus 34-29 tells us that when he came down from meeting with God, his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. But here's what most preachers won't tell you, that glory was so heavy, so overwhelming, that the Israelites couldn't even look at him. They were terrified. Moses had to cover his face with a veil just so people could be in his presence. Glory has weight, and you're carrying it now. You wonder, why me? You look around at people who seem so much more qualified, so much more educated, so much more everything. And you whisper to yourself in those dark 3 a.m. moments, God, you sure you got the right person? I'm 73 years old. I've made mistakes. I've failed more times than I've succeeded. Why would you trust me with this? Because chosen ones aren't selected for comfort. They're selected for capacity. God didn't choose you because your life was easy. He chose you because your life stretched you. Every tear you cried expanded your heart. Every betrayal deepened your compassion. Every financial crisis taught you to depend on Him alone. Every sleepless night was training. You thought you were just surviving, but heaven was watching you develop the exact muscle you'd need to carry what's coming. You were trusted with pain, so you could be trusted with power. You were trusted with lack, so you could be trusted with abundance. You were trusted with silence, so you could be trusted with influence. Think about Joseph. Genesis tells us he was 17 when God gave him dreams of rulership, but he didn't touch a throne until he was 30. 13 years. 13 years of slavery, false accusations, prison, and abandonment. Why? Because the dream came early, but the character had to catch up. God couldn't put a 17-year-old's character in charge of Egypt's economy. That boy would have destroyed everything. But a 30-year-old who'd been betrayed by his brothers, sold by strangers, lied about by Potiphar's wife, and forgotten by the cupbearer. That man had shoulders strong enough to carry a nation through famine. What you thought was just survival was actually heaven, training your shoulders to carry kingdoms. Every time you got knocked down and got back up, you were in heaven's gym. Every time you paid a bill you couldn't afford and somehow made it through the month, you were bench-pressing faith. Every time you buried someone you loved and still chose to believe God was good, you were building spiritual muscle that most people will never develop. And now, right now, that training is paying off. The weight you feel isn't punishment, it's promotion. You're not being crushed, you're being crowned. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Here's where most people turn back. Because glory doesn't just feel heavy, it feels exposing. Suddenly, people are watching you differently. Suddenly, your choices matter more. Suddenly, you can't just coast through life anonymous and comfortable. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, "And we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory." Did you catch that? Ever-increasing. The glory doesn't plateau, it escalates. What you carry today is just the beginning. And with each new level of glory comes a new level of responsibility. Your financial breakthrough isn't just about you finally being comfortable, it's about you becoming a conduit. God is giving you wealth so you can become a solution to someone else's crisis. He's opening doors for you so you can hold them open for others. He's blessing your bank account so you can fund kingdom work that changes lives. That's why it feels heavy, because it is. But listen to me carefully. You were built for this. Every single thing you've walked through was calibrated to prepare you for exactly this weight. God doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't miscalculate capacity. If he's placing this mantle on your shoulders, it's because he knows you can carry it. Remember Gideon? Judges 6:12 records the moment an angel appeared to him and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." And Gideon looked around like, "Who, me? I'm the least in my family, and my family is the weakest in Manasseh." But God didn't see Gideon's resume. He saw Gideon's capacity. And that mighty warrior wasn't a description of who Gideon was. It was a declaration of who he was becoming. Right now, heaven is speaking over you. Not who you were, not even who you are, but who you're becoming under the weight of this glory. You're becoming a voice that speaks life into dead situations. You're becoming a hand that lifts the fallen. You're becoming a storehouse that feeds the hungry. You're becoming living proof that God still honors the faithful, still remembers the forgotten, still elevates the humble. But you have to accept the mantle. You have to stop shrinking back from the weight and step fully into the glory, because the world is waiting for you. There are people in your family who will only believe God is real when they see what he does through you. There are neighbors who will only step into church because you invited them. There are bills that will only get paid because you obeyed God's voice to give. The mantle is here. The weight is real. But so is the power. If you feel the weight of glory tonight, if something in your spirit is confirming that this word is for you, I need you to do something. Don't just nod. Don't just think about it. Declare it. Type in the comments right now, "I receive the mantle." Because when you declare it, heaven moves. When you speak it, angels respond. When you type those 4 words, You're not just making a comment, you're making a covenant with destiny. The weight you feel is the weight of the kingdom you're about to carry. And you were born for this. You think this moment is just about you, don't you? You think God is finally answering your 70 years of prayers so you can pay off that mortgage, buy the medication without choosing between pills and groceries, maybe take one vacation before your knees give out completely. But what if I told you that you're thinking too small? What if I told you that the financial breakthrough landing in your life right now isn't just a momentary blessing, it's generational equity? What if heaven didn't open the vaults for you alone, but for your children's children's children? Listen closely. Your life is not a period at the end of a sentence. Your life is a hinge. And the destiny of your entire bloodline is swinging on what you do in this moment. Let me paint you a picture that will shatter every small dream you've been carrying. Drop a stone in still water. Watch it. One impact. But the ripples, they don't stop at the shore. They keep expanding, keep moving, keep touching places that stone will never physically reach. That's you, chosen one. You are the stone heaven just dropped into the waters of time. Your grandmother prayed prayers you never heard. She wept tears into pillows you never saw. She believed for breakthrough she never lived to witness. But those prayers didn't evaporate. They compounded. They accumulated interest in heaven's bank. And now, right now, you're standing at the withdrawal window. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night, interceding for people just like you. Most of you still think you're too old for your breakthrough to matter. You think, well, at least I'll die with my bills paid. You think your season is sunset when God is shouting sunrise. Your grandchildren are watching you right now. Maybe they're toddlers, maybe they're teenagers, maybe they haven't been born yet. But they're watching from the future, waiting to see if you'll accept what heaven is releasing, or if you'll let fear, doubt, and 70 years of disappointment convince you it's too good to be true. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything. 75. He could have said, God, I'm too old. This promise is for younger men. But he didn't. He walked. And because he walked, Isaac was born. And because Isaac was born, Jacob came. And because Jacob came, the 12 tribes emerged. And because the 12 tribes emerged, David's dynasty rose. And because David's dynasty rose, Jesus entered human history through that bloodline. One old man's obedience became the hinge for the salvation of humanity. Don't you dare tell me your obedience doesn't matter because you're in your golden years. Don't you dare believe the lie that your breakthrough is too late to make a difference. Ruth was a widow, broke, foreign, gleaning leftover grain just to survive. Nobody would have bet on her future. But she made one decision: to stay faithful, to keep showing up, to trust the God of Israel even when everything looked hopeless. And that decision put her in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Read Matthew 1-5, her name is there. A poor widow's faithfulness became the bloodline of the Messiah. Your financial shift right now is not just so you can rest easy. It's so your grandson doesn't have to start from zero. It's so your great-granddaughter inherits momentum, not just memories. Every tear you cried in secret while trying to figure out how to stretch $20 until the first of the month that wasn't wasted water. That was seed. Every night you fell asleep exhausted, wondering if God heard you. He was recording it. Psalm 56-8 says, He keeps your tears in a bottle. You know what that means. Your tears are compounding interest for children you may never meet. But here's where it gets dangerous. Here's where the enemy trembles. If you accept this financial breakthrough, if you steward it with wisdom, if you let it shift not just your checking account but your mindset, your family will never be the same. The curse of poverty that has followed your bloodline for 3 generations stops with you. The shame, the lack, the barely getting by mentality, it dies today. But only if you believe it, only if you speak it, only if you stop shrinking back into I'm just an old person waiting to die and start walking like the patriarch or matriarch you were ordained to be. David's dynasty lasted generations because one shepherd boy refused to bow to a giant. Joseph's wisdom saved nations and positioned his entire family for blessing because he chose to trust God in a prison cell. Rahab's courage saved her household and placed her in the lineage of kings because she acted on faith when everything screamed fear. What will your descendants say about this moment? Will they say, "That's the year great-grandma broke the cycle"? Or will they say, "That's the year great-grandma let fear win again"? I need you to understand something that's going to cut deep. You're not just receiving a financial blessing. You're being handed a family legacy, a generational mandate. This isn't just about your comfort in your final years. This is about establishing inheritance, momentum, and blessing for people whose names you'll never know, but whose lives will be transformed because you said yes. Say this aloud right now. Don't just read it. Speak it into the atmosphere. Say, "It begins with me. It multiplies beyond me." Say it again, louder. "It begins with me. It multiplies beyond me." Because heaven is listening. Your descendants are listening. And the enemy who has tormented your family line for decades is watching to see if you'll finally break his grip. The ripple has started, chosen one. The question is, will you let it expand, or will you try to contain it out of fear? Because what happens next will determine not just your future, but the future of everyone who carries your name. Let me tell you something the financial advisors on Wall Street will never admit. They have no power over your next season. None. Zero. The stock market can crash tomorrow. Social Security can be cut in half. Your 401k can evaporate like morning mist. But heaven's economy? It never fluctuates. It never fails. It never forgets your name. You've been playing by Earth's rules your whole life, haven't you? Work 40 years, save every penny, hope there's enough left when the body gives out. You did everything right. You tithed faithfully. You paid your taxes. You contributed to your retirement account. And now you're 75 years old, sitting at your kitchen table at midnight, calculator in hand, trying to figure out how to make $1,847 stretch until the end of the month. That's not God's plan for you. That's Earth's broken system bleeding you dry. Earth measures in dollars. Heaven measures in destiny. Listen to what Philippians 4:19 declares. "My God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory." Not according to your salary, not according to the stock market, not according to inflation rates or Federal Reserve decisions, according to his riches in glory. Do you understand what that means? Heaven's vault is infinite. While Earth's economy shrinks, heaven's economy expands. While Wall Street panics, heaven's street of gold never loses value. You know what the problem is? You've been conditioned to believe that retirement means the end of productivity. The world told you to step aside, sit down, fade quietly into the background. They gave you a gold watch and a pat on the back and said, "Your time is over." But I'm here to tell you something that's going to ignite fire in your bones. You're not retired, you're refired. God is not done with you. He's just getting started. And the provision he's about to release into your life has nothing to do with your ability to work and everything to do with your willingness to align. You see, the prophetic economy doesn't operate by hustle. It operates by obedience. It doesn't function by your effort. It functions by your alignment with heaven's timing. While the world says grind harder, heaven says trust deeper. While earth demands productivity, heaven rewards surrender. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many years have you spent trying to build your own security instead of resting in spiritual security? How much energy have you wasted trying to force doors open that God never intended for you to walk through? How many sleepless nights have you spent worrying about money when heaven already allocated your provision before you were born? Malachi 3:10 says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it." Test me, God says. Not beg me, not convince me. Test me. Because He knows. He absolutely knows that when you align with His economy, the floodgates don't just crack open, they explode. Here's what Wall Street won't tell you. Recessions are temporary. But heaven? Heaven has no recessions. Economic downturns? Heaven doesn't recognize them. Inflation? Heaven's currency never devalues. While Earth systems collapse under pressure, Heaven's system strengthens under faith. And right now, this very second, you are being repositioned from Earth's failing economy into Heaven's flourishing economy. This isn't theory. This isn't wishful thinking. This is prophetic activation happening in real time, as these words penetrate your spirit. But here's where it gets supernatural. Here's where everything you thought you knew about provision gets shattered. God is about to pay you for prayers you forgot you prayed. That's right. Every desperate cry you whispered at 3 a.m. 30 years ago. Every tear-stained petition you lifted when your children were struggling. Every broken-hearted plea when the bills piled higher than hope. God recorded them. He stored them. He's been accumulating interest on your faithfulness. And now it's payday. Joel 2:25 promises, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. Not reimburse, repay. With interest, with overflow, with abundance that makes up for every season of lack. The locusts ate your savings in 2008. They devoured your health in the hospital bills. They consumed your peace in the divorce settlements. But God is a God of restoration. And He's about to release recompense so overwhelming that you'll look back on this day and say, that was the day everything changed. You're not waiting for a stimulus check from Washington. You're waiting for a supernatural release from heaven. And the difference? Washington's checks run out. Heaven's supply never ends. Washington's programs get defunded. Heaven's promises are eternal. Washington forgets about seniors. Heaven crowns them with glory and honor. So let me ask you directly, are you ready to stop trusting in Earth's broken systems and start operating in Heaven's prophetic economy? Are you ready to stop measuring your worth by your bank statement and start measuring it by your spiritual inheritance? Are you ready to step out of retirement mentality and step into refired authority? Because I'm telling you right now, Wall Street may fall, banks may fail, the dollar may collapse, but Heaven's economy, it's crash-proof, it's recession-proof, it's devil-proof. And you, chosen one, have just been granted full access. If you believe heaven is your economy, if you're ready to stop operating by Earth's rules and start living by heaven's promises, I need you to declare it right now. Type in the comments, paid in full, not as a wish, as a declaration, as a prophetic announcement that your debt to the broken system is cancelled and your account in heaven is activated. But here's the question that will determine everything about your next chapter. What happens when someone who's been living by Earth's economy suddenly steps into heaven's unlimited supply? Listen to me, beloved. I know what you're afraid of. I know because I've sat across the kitchen table from people just like you, 72 years old, 85 years old, 90 years old, and I've watched their hands shake as they sorted pills into those little plastic organizers, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Each one costs more than a week's worth of groceries used to cost when you were raising your family. You're afraid you're going to run out. Not just run out of money, run out of time before the breakthrough comes. You're afraid that this month, next month, the month after that, you'll open that envelope from the bank and the number will be smaller and smaller and smaller still, until there's nothing left. You're afraid of becoming a burden, of your daughter having to choose between her own bills and your medications, of your son looking at you with that mixture of love and exhaustion, of the nursing home, of the indignity, of dying broke after a lifetime of faithfulness. I need you to hear something that's going to shatter that fear right now. You ready? God doesn't operate on subtraction. He operates on multiplication. Turn with me to 1 Kings chapter 17. There's a widow there, and when I say widow, I mean she's you. She's alone. She's terrified. She's down to her last meal. The Bible says she was gathering sticks to make a fire, to bake one final piece of bread for herself and her son, and then her words, "Not mine, that we may eat it and die." That we may eat it and die. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever stood in your kitchen, staring at what's left in the cupboard, doing the math in your head, wondering how long you can stretch it, wondering if this is it, if you've finally hit the bottom? But here's where it gets supernatural. The prophet Elijah shows up, and instead of bringing her food, he asks her for food. He says, "Make me a little cake first, and afterward make something for yourself and your son." Now that sounds insane, doesn't it? It sounds cruel. She's starving, her child is starving, and this man of God wants her to give away what little she has left. But watch what happens next. 1 Kings 17, verse 14. Elijah says, "For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of flour shall not be spent, and the jug of oil shall not be empty, until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth. The jar of flour shall not be spent, the jug of oil shall not be empty." She gave from her lack, and God multiplied from her obedience, not subtracting, multiplying, not subtracting, multiplying. Now, I need you to stay with me, because this isn't just ancient history. This is your life. This is your bank account. This is your social security check that never seems to be enough. This is your medicine cabinet full of pills you can barely afford. What you have in your hand right now might look like nothing. It might look like the widow's last handful of flour. It might feel like you're one unexpected expense away from disaster. But when you place that little bit into God's hands, when you stop clutching it in fear and release it in faith, multiplication begins. Think about what Jesus did with 5 loaves and 2 fish. John chapter 6. A little boy's lunch, that's all it was. Probably looked pathetic sitting there in a basket while 5,000 men plus women and children, so we're talking 15, maybe 20,000 people stared at it. The disciples wanted to send everyone home. "This is impossible," they said. "We can't feed this many people with this." But Jesus didn't see scarcity. He saw multiplication. He took that little lunch, he blessed it, he broke it, and the Bible says they all ate and were satisfied. Not just barely fed, satisfied. And then this is the part that destroys me every time they gathered up 12 baskets full of leftovers. 12 baskets from one little boy's lunch. That's not addition, beloved. That's not even doubling. That's exponential, supernatural, impossible multiplication. And the same God who did it then is doing it now, right now, over your life, over your finances, over your remaining years. I can see some of you sitting there thinking, "But I'm too old for miracles like that. I'm 83 years old. My miracle days are over." Stop lying to yourself. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation out of slavery. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to Isaac. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age doesn't disqualify you from multiplication, it qualifies you. Because you've lived long enough to know that when provision shows up out of nowhere, it's not luck, it's God. You will never outlive your provision because your provision was never human, it was holy. Let that sink deep into your spirit. You will never outlive your provision. The oil never ran dry for the widow of Zarephath, not during the entire famine. Day after day, week after week, month after month, she'd go to that jar expecting it to be empty, and every single time there was enough. Not a warehouse full, just enough for that day. And the next day, enough again. And the next day, enough again. That's how God operates. He doesn't give you a decade's worth of provision at once because he wants you to trust him daily. He wants you to wake up tomorrow morning and discover that what should have run out is still flowing. Your checking account is about to become that widow's jar. What should mathematically be impossible is about to become your testimony. The bills that should have buried you, paid. The medical expenses that should have bankrupted you, covered. The gap between your income and your needs, closed by the hand of the Almighty. Now, I need you to do something with me. I need you to stop reading for just a moment and whisper this out loud. Say it like you mean it. Say it like it's already true, because it is. Whisper this with me. My oil will never run dry. Say it again. My oil will never run dry. One more time. With the faith of that widow who gave her last meal to a prophet. My oil will never run dry. Chosen one, you're not reading about ancient miracles, you're standing in one. The shift isn't coming someday, it's here. The multiplication has already begun. And what you're about to discover in the coming days will leave you speechless, on your knees, weeping with gratitude. But here's what you need to understand about what happens next, because multiplication doesn't just stop at provision. It extends into something far more powerful than money, something that will change not just your bank account, but your entire bloodline. Listen to me, chosen one. Something happened to you the moment you said yes to this word. Something shifted in the invisible realm that your natural eyes can't see yet, but your spirit already knows. You feel it, don't you? That strange trembling in your chest. That electricity running through your bloodstream. That restlessness that won't let you sit still. That's not anxiety. That's aftershock. When an earthquake hits, the ground doesn't just shake once and stop. No, the earth keeps trembling. Aftershocks ripple through the terrain for days, sometimes weeks, reminding you that something massive just occurred beneath the surface. And right now, your life is still trembling with favor. The ground of your finances, your health, your peace, it's all shaking because heaven just moved a mountain you couldn't see. But here's what most people miss. They feel the trembling and think something's wrong. They feel the shaking and call it chaos. But I'm here to tell you that trembling is evidence, that shaking is confirmation. You're not falling apart, you're being rearranged by divine hands. You see, the Bible tells us in Hebrews 12:26-7, once more I will shake not only the earth but also the heavens. God shakes what can be shaken so that what cannot be shaken remains. Everything in your life that was built on fear, on scarcity, on doubt, it's being shaken loose right now. And what remains? Faith, authority, overflow. But I need you to understand something that's going to blow your mind. The shift you're feeling inside is happening before the evidence shows up outside. That's how God works. He rewrites your internal frequency first, then your external reality bends to match it. You're walking differently today, aren't you? Even if nobody else notices, you're holding your head a little higher. You're breathing a little deeper. There's a knowing in your spirit that wasn't there yesterday. That's not confidence, that's confirmation. Heaven is whispering, I heard you, I saw you, and I'm moving. Now watch what happens next. Pay attention, because the aftershocks are about to manifest in the natural realm. Your phone is going to ring. And it's going to be someone you haven't heard from in years, someone who owes you, someone who forgot, someone who's about to say, I was just thinking about you. That's not coincidence. That's divine orchestration. An opportunity is going to land in your inbox. A door is going to crack open that you didn't even knock on. A check is going to arrive that you didn't expect. A bill is going to get cancelled that you couldn't pay. A favor is going to fall into your lap that you didn't work for. And when it happens, don't you dare call it luck. Don't you dare say, oh, that was just good timing. No, that's the aftershock of your agreement. That's the tremor of heaven responding to your faith. That's God proving to you that when you align with His word, the entire universe rearranges itself to meet you. But here's where it gets dangerous. Here's where the enemy will try to steal what's yours. He's going to whisper, this is temporary. Don't get excited. It's going to run out. And if you believe that lie, you'll go right back into scarcity thinking. So let me tell you the truth that hell doesn't want you to know. This isn't temporary. This is permanent. This isn't a lucky break. This is a shift in your identity. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You are a vessel of heaven's supply. You are no longer chasing money like a beggar. You are the magnet. Abundance is chasing you. You yourself, yes, you, sitting there at 72, 85, 90 years old, you yourself are abundance in motion. Let that sink into your bones. You are not waiting for wealth to find you. You are wealth. You carry the currency of heaven in your prayers, in your faith, in your very presence. Everywhere you go, overflow follows. Every conversation you have, favor is released. Every step you take, provision is activated. The Apostle Paul said it in Philippians 4:19. My God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory, not according to your social security check, not according to your age, not according to your past mistakes, according to his riches. And his riches have no bottom, no limit, no end. You've spent your whole life living from scarcity, counting pennies, stretching dollars, making do. But that version of you died the moment you typed 777. The you that worried about running out, gone. The you that felt ashamed asking for help, buried. The you that believed your best days were behind you, erased. You are living in the aftershock now, and in this realm, everything you touch multiplies. Every seed you plant returns 100-fold. Every act of faith becomes a magnet for miracles. But I need you to do something right now. I need you to stop living like you're still broke. Stop talking like you're still struggling. Stop acting like you're still waiting. Because the shift already happened. The moment you agreed with this word, heaven stamped paid in full over your life. So act like it, walk like it, speak like it. When that bill comes in the mail, don't panic. Declare, my God supplies. When the doctor gives you a diagnosis, don't crumble. Declare, by his stripes I am healed. When loneliness creeps in, don't despair. Declare, I am never alone. Heaven is with me. Your words are not just sounds in the air. Your words are aftershocks. They continue the shaking. They reinforce the shift. They announce to every demon, every doubt, every delay, that your season has changed. The Bible says in Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. You've been speaking death over your finances for too long. I'll never have enough. I'll always be broke. I'm too old to start over. Stop it. Those words are witchcraft against your own destiny. From this moment forward, your mouth becomes a prophet. You will speak wealth into existence. You will declare overflow until it overflows. You will announce abundance until abundance announces itself in your bank account. Right now, I want you to type 4 words in the comments. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just type, I am overflow. Say it out loud where you're sitting. I am overflow. Say it again. I am overflow. Let heaven hear your agreement. Let the angels take note. Let the enemy tremble at the sound of a chosen one who finally understands their identity. Because you are no longer chasing money, beloved. Money is chasing you. You are no longer begging for breakthrough. Breakthrough is breaking through every barrier to reach you. You are no longer hoping for a miracle. You are the miracle. And the aftershock? It's just beginning. So here's my question for you as we move forward. If you are overflow, if you truly are abundance in motion, then what are you about to do with all that heaven is pouring into your hands? Chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you like precious stones in your pocket. First, your financial shift is not coming, it's here, right now, this moment. The vaults of heaven opened the second you said yes to this word, and nothing in hell can close what God has unsealed over your life. Second, you are no longer a victim of lack. You are a vessel of overflow. You are not chasing money. Money is magnetically drawn to you because you carry the frequency of abundance. Your identity has shifted from scarcity to source, from beggar to blessed, from forgotten to favored. Third, the aftershocks you're feeling, the trembling in your spirit, the restlessness in your chest, the knowing that something has changed, that's not anxiety, that's activation. Heaven is rearranging your reality to match the decree that was spoken over you today. But I need you to hear something deeper than strategy, deeper than prophecy, deeper than any financial promise. You are not walking this road alone. The God who interrupted your scroll today, the God who whispered your name through this message, the God who saw you at 3 a.m. when you were doing math that wouldn't add up, that same God is still working in your life right now, in this very moment. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't moved on to someone younger, richer, or more worthy. You are his focus. You are his priority. You are the apple of his eye. And beyond God's presence, you have something precious right here, a community. Look at these comments. Look at these hearts connecting. These aren't just strangers on the internet. These are your brothers and sisters who understand your struggle, who felt your pain, who are believing with you for breakthrough. We are here. We see you. We will pray with you. So let me ask you one final question, and let it settle deep in your bones. If God has already released your financial shift, if the decree has already been signed in heaven, if the overflow is already in motion, then what will you do tomorrow morning when you wake up? Will you live like it's true, or will you go back to the old story of lack? Before I release you, join me in this prayer. If you're able, place your hand on your heart. If you're lying in bed, let your hand rest on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm is proof that God isn't finished with you yet. Heavenly Father, I come before you now with my hand on the shoulder of every person who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them. You know their names. You've counted every tear, every sleepless night, every moment they've wondered if you still cared. And today, I ask you to let them feel your presence like never before. Father, I speak financial breakthrough over their lives right now. I declare that unexpected checks are coming, bills are being cancelled, debts are being forgiven, doors are opening that no man can shut, resources are being released from places they never expected. Divine favor is following them into every conversation, every appointment, every decision. But more than money, Lord, give them peace. The kind of peace that doesn't make sense when the bank account is still low. The kind of peace that silences fear when the bills are still stacked on the table. The kind of peace that says, God's got me, even when the evidence isn't visible yet. I pray for their health, Father. Strengthen their bodies, renew their minds, heal what's been broken, restore what's been stolen. Let every prescription bottle, every doctor's report, every physical limitation bow to your authority. I pray for their families, Lord. Bring back the prodigal children, heal the broken relationships, restore the love that's been lost. Let their grandchildren rise up and call them blessed. And Father, I pray for their legacy. Let this shift be generational. Let the overflow they're stepping into today ripple through their bloodline for decades to come. Let their children's children tell the story of the year that everything changed, the year that heaven broke through and rewrote their family's future. Surround them with divine protection. Assign angels to guard their coming and going. Let no weapon formed against them prosper. Let every plot of the enemy backfire. Let every door he tries to close swing wide open. Most of all, Lord, let them know deep in their spirit that they are loved, that they are seen, that they are chosen. Not because of what they've done, but because of who you are. You are faithful, you are good, and you keep your promises. In the mighty, matchless, all-powerful name of Jesus Christ, I seal this prayer. Amen. Now, chosen one, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell us what shifted in your spirit today. Share your testimony. Ask for prayer. Let this community surround you with faith and intercession. And if this message touched your soul, if something inside you came alive, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your aunt who's been struggling, your friend who's lost hope, your neighbor who's about to give up. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know overflow is real. Thank you truly, from the depths of my heart, for staying with me through this entire message. Your time is precious, and you gave it to seek God's heart. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell, because this isn't the end, this is just the beginning. Every week, we're going deeper into the mysteries of your divine identity, unpacking the promises God has spoken over your life, and building a community of the overflow. You are not broke. You are not forgotten. You are not too old. You are overflow. You are abundance. You are the chosen one. Now go and live like it. Amen.